G'day, it's Joe here. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create wonderful sci-fi battle maps for your minis. Now I'm doing this because we've created a great new game called High Space, which is a Savage Worlds game, but you can use these tutorials to create all manner of science fiction game battle maps. You can even use it in your fantasy games if you take your characters into really weird places. Anyway, so let's get started. What I'm going to do in this first video is show the importance of creating a master plan for your battle maps. And it's pretty easy. We've got a little template that you can use for that, and you can just go and get that now. Hang on a tick. Okay, so first of all, we have loaded up our campaign cartographer, and to create the floor plan guide, I'm going to go open, and I'm going to browse to the ship planner, and here's the ship planner folder. So I'm just going to open this up. There you go. Now this very simple file is basically just a large grid. So you can see across here we've got all manner of subgrids. Now I'm just going to zoom in so you can get a good idea of what they look like. Basically what you've got is 35 by 35 foot grids, and they're cut halfway through the 5-foot mark on the red grid, and you can see the 10-foot grid markings of where doorways and corridors and so forth would go. Now if you remember back to our battle tiles that we created about 2 years ago for the fantasy settings, they were basically this size. So this is a great tool I've found for mapping out how you want all of your tiles to fit together if you're creating a single entity. And we're going to use this for a spaceship. Incidentally, you can use this very same template for creating dungeons as well. Now, the first thing you should do once you've got your little grid up here is go and select that you're going to be laying out the hull. So we'll go to the hull layer. Now, let's draw our hull. We're going to want this to be a relatively small starship, so let's say about 200 feet long. So let's start drawing in our basic floor plan. First of all, I'm just going to go over here and click on the rectangle tool. Make sure that we've got fill color solid, one color solid, and I'm going to draw a base area here. So it's 35, 70, 140, about 210 feet along there. So there's the basic body of our ship. I'm also going to create in here, starting from this point, a bit of a bulge. So I'm going to use the arc function from here to here, and I'm going to make it bulge that much. Now, here's a problem. That line there is currently not a multi-fill, it's just a line. Now there's a really quick trick which I discovered recently when you're trying to create sections of arcs. If you multi-poly just a single arc line, blink, select the multi-poly function, click there, and click on do it, it will actually assume that there's a line from these two endpoints and fill it in accordingly. So now, if we zoom out, that's probably too far. Let's get our working area. You can see this area in here is filled in, and I'm going to do the same thing. Take the 2 points, and then I'm going to go and multi-poly. My favorite tool is multi-poly. There we go. Okay, so now we've got rather odd-looking little starship piece here. I'm now going to put a filled polygon to bring out the rest of it. So starting from this point here, coming down to say here, all the way back in, fill out a piece such as that. Now, I don't want to have to recreate that piece because that could be a bit of a pain in the neck by drawing it on the opposite side here. So I'm going to use a fantastic command called mirror. To do this, you need to first of all copy the element that you're going to be mirroring. So there we go, I've copied it. Do it. Move it down. And then push the escape key, and then type in M-I-R-R-O-R. If I can type correctly. Mirror. You select the entity that you're going to mirror. I'm just going to push the P button, which means the previously selected item, which is of course the copy that we've created. Right click, do it. And then you draw where you want the axis that you want it mirrored from. And I'm just going to draw along there. Now let's move. So you click on the move function. The previously selected, push P for the previously selected button. Do it. And I'm going to take that edge line, since I know it matches there, and put it in place. So there we go. We've got a rather bulky looking ship here so far. Now that front bridge section doesn't look very attractive, so let's create a multi-poly for that as well. Now you can see that my grid snaps are currently 35-foot grid snaps, and that's too much for me. So what I'm going to do, in fact it's probably a good idea that I do save this, so I'm going to go save as. Now really important, when you're saving this, make sure you give it a name, so I'm going to call this Ship Planner, and what's a good name for our starship? The Pig. There we go, we're going to make the Pig. So, our snap lines are too great. They're basically snapping to these whole areas here. I'm going to come here, right click on it, and I'm going to select the 5-foot 2 grid snap. You can see snapping space is 5 foot, snap divisions are 2. Click on OK, OK. And now let's use a multi-poly. You can see this is now snapping to that 5-foot grid. Start that again. So I'm going to click on the multi-poly grid. I'm going to start from, I'm going to put a wedge in just like this. There's the first piece. And I'm going to create a mirror of that. So I'm going to copy this piece here, do it, out. And then I'm going to mirror. I love the mirror command. So many wonderful things in Campaign Cartographer that you often don't realize is there. Do it. I want that line there. Let's move previous. Do it. Need it to be the same distance off. There we go. So we'll zoom out and you can now see that the base deck plan of the ship is now pretty well defined. Now you can go in and put your floors in here. What I would do for that is, or rather your decks I should say, is I normally just change it to a grey colour. There we go, use a lighter grey than that. Use this grey down here. 253. And definitely change this to being decks. And let's lay in the base floor line here. Now because we've selected the 5-foot grid, you can see that it's actually working neatly within our grid settings. I'll just zoom in on that and you can get an idea. You can see that the 5-foot grid is working nicely to sit within our grid environments. I'm going to put a corridor that matches the doors from here. We'll put some sort of a control room in through here. There we go. And we might do something a little bit different down in here. Now, notice that what I'm trying to do is I'm lining it up with these green grid lines here, which are the doorways. So when you line up your map to doorways, you can be guaranteed that when you produce the battle maps, they're all going to fit nicely with each other. And the blue lines on the map represent the edge of the battle maps as they're drawn in standard. Oops. It's a little bit crooked there. Now, if you notice I made a mistake there, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom in to this piece here. And I'm going to use the nudge tool. Grab that little fella and just nudge him back to where he should be. There we go. Great. And what we'll do is we'll mirror this piece here as well. So I'm just going to grab that, click on it, do it. That copies them down. And then I'm going to type in mirror. Mirror. We'll click on them. Go do it. I'll just mirror him along this line here. And let's move them into place. Let's add a few other little bits and pieces in here just to really set this off. I'm going to whack going to move to my 35-foot grid. I'm just going to edit that, and I'm going to give myself 2 snap spacings. And then I'm going to draw a circle from this point to give myself a little engine area there. And I think that will give ourselves some bulk in here as well. I'm going to go back to my other grid, 5-foot grids. 5-foot grids are great for putting down your floors, and the 35-foot grid is good for putting down your hulls. Just remember that, and it's an easy way of keeping everything all in line together. So I'm going to draw from this point, edge of there, to edge of there, and I'm going to just make this come up to the doorway level, about mid-space. And multi-poly, and here's a trick: if you multi-poly previous line that you've just drawn, go do it, it will align it for you already. And again, I'm going to copy that previous element, do it, bring it down, mirror, mirror the previous element, P for previous, do it, just draw your axis, and let's move that into space as well. Click on the move function, do it, done. So what we now have is a large-scale template of what our starship is going to look like when it's battle mapped out. And realistically, all that we need to do when drawing our battle map is focus on this section, this section, this section, these 2 sections here, which actually can just be reflections of each other, this section, this section, this section, this section, here and here. This can be a reflection of this one, this is a unique area, and these we may as well just make as reflections of these. So if we want our ship to be symmetrical, very, very quick to do. We really only have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 parts, or 11 battle maps. Now, I'm not going to map this ship out in its entirety during these tutorials, that would take too long, but I am going to make the files that we've created for this available online. So that's how you map out the initial parts of your ship. You'll also notice that we've left plenty of room on this grid to allow you to create multiple floors for your ship. And what you just do is you just map out each area, each layer as you wished. So it's that simple. Another nice little trick that you can do is to export this grid map out as a high-level player map or a GM's guide map. And you can then put textual descriptions on it or whatever you wanted. To output this, you just go Save As, and then you mark it as being a rectangular section JPEG, and then you just click on Options to make sure you're not outputting in some crazy width. That's a bit small, so I'm going to make that 1200, 1200. 8-bit is fine. Click on OK, click on Save, and then just select the rectangle that you'd like to output. I'm just going to do that. And bingo, you should be done. If we come back to files, we should be able to see here the pig. There's the pig. There's the pig. And there you go. You can see that we've got our guide map here. So that's it. That's how you create a guide map for doing your campaign cartographer science fiction battle plans.